Princess Furball, retold by Charlotte Huck, illustrated by Anita LaBelle. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful young princess whose hair was the color of pure gold. She was frequently lonely and unhappy, for her mother had died when she was a baby, and her father paid little attention to her. Luckily, her old nurse, who loved the princess as a mother loves a daughter, saw that she was lonely and allowed her to run and play with the village children. And some days the princess visited with the cook in the large kitchen and learned to make soup and bread and cakes. Yet the nurse never forgot that the young girl was a princess. She taught her the manners of a lady and arranged for tutors to instruct her in reading, writing, and dancing. And so the princess grew to be strong and capable and clever, besides being beautiful. One day, the old nurse died, and the princess felt all alone again. To make matters worse, her father promised her hand in marriage to an ogre, who agreed to give the king 50 wagons of silver in return. The princess was horrified when she heard what her father had done, and begged him to change his mind. But her father was determined to carry out his bargain. The princess then thought of a clever plan. "Father," she said, "before I marry I must have 3 bridal gifts. One dress as golden as the sun, another as silvery as the moon, and a third as glittering as the stars. In addition, I shall need a coat made of 1,000 different kinds of fur, one piece from every animal in your kingdom." There, she thought, my father will never be able to meet these demands. The king, however, began at once to provide for her bridal gifts. He called for the most skillful weavers in the land and ordered them to weave the 3 dresses, one as golden as the sun, another as silvery as the moon, and the third as glittering as the stars. He commanded his hunters to go into the forest, kill 1,000 different kinds of wild animals, and bring home their skins so that the coat could be made. At last, when all the gifts were ready, the king laid them out for his daughter to see and said, "Tomorrow your marriage will take place." The poor princess decided the only thing to do was to run away. That night, when all the castle was asleep, the princess got up. She folded the sun, the moon, and the star dresses into a package so small they could fit in a walnut shell. Then she took 3 tiny treasures that had belonged to her mother: a gold ring, a gold thimble, and a little gold spinning wheel. These she put into a second walnut shell. Into a third shell she put her favorite seasoning for the soup the cook had taught her to make. Then she bound up her hair, put on her boots and her coat of 1,000 furs, and stepped out into the silent, snowy darkness. She walked all night. At dawn, the princess came to a thick forest. She was very tired. The snow had covered her footprints, so she knew she could safely stop and rest. She found a hollow tree, curled up in it, and fell asleep. The sun rose higher and higher, but the princess slept on until it was nearly noon. On this very day, the young king, to whom the woods belonged, was out hunting in the forest. His hounds came to the tree where the princess slept, and they began to sniff and run around and around, barking excitedly. The king called to his hunters and said, Go see what is hiding in that tree. 2 hunters went over to look. When they came back, they told the king they had found a marvelous creature, sound asleep in the hollow of the tree. Its body is covered with 1,000 different kinds of fur, they said. See if you can capture it alive, said the king. Then tie it up, put it into the wagon, and bring it back to the castle. When the hunters grabbed the princess, she woke up in terror and cried out, Please don't hurt me. I have no home. Have pity on me and take me with you. Well, they said, Come along, little Furball. We'll take you to the cook. Perhaps he can find something useful for you to do. You can at least sweep up the ashes for him. The hunters put Furball into the wagon and drove her to the king's castle. There they showed her an old woodshed where daylight never entered. Furball, you may live and sleep here, they said. Then they took her to the kitchen, where the cook had her fetch the wood, draw the water, stir the fire, pluck the chickens, clean the vegetables, wash the dishes, sweep the ashes, and do all the rest of the dirty work that no one else wanted to do. Poor Furball lived for a long time as a servant to the servants. She could not see how her life would ever change. One day, Furball heard that the king was giving a ball at the castle. Please, she said to the cook, may I go for a little while to see the guests arrive? I promise you that no one will ever catch even a glimpse of me. Go, said the gruff old cook, but be back in half an hour to sweep up the ashes and put the kitchen in order. Furball quickly took her smoky oil lamp and darted to her little woodshed. She washed the soot and ashes from her face and hands and undid her hair. Then she opened the first walnut shell and took out the dress that was as golden as the sun. Its glow lit up the whole woodshed. As soon as the princess was ready, she slipped around to the front of the castle and entered the great door as a guest. No one recognized her as Furball, the cinder maid of the kitchen. The doorkeepers thought she was a princess from some other country, and they bowed to her as she entered. They quickly told the king of her arrival, and he hastened to greet the princess and lead her out to dance.